So we shall start. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to who is joining from China. My name is Alessio Petino. I'm the knowledge coordinator of the EU SME Centre in Beijing. It's a great pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar that we are doing together with the China-Italy Chamber of Commerce. Today's topic is about chemicals. We have, as EU SME Centre, we have done quite a few activities on cosmetics, but actually not much on other chemical substances, hazardous chemicals, dangerous chemicals, which is in fact what we are going to address today. So it's this is obviously a very important sector for Europe, also very important component of EU exports to China, and we are doing this today to provide let's say an update on the regulatory framework, which we will see it's very complicated, it's very fragmented. So we'll try basically to provide basic information about what to do, where to go, and how to do it. Before starting, I would like to spend a few minutes on the EU SME Centre. For those of you who don't know us, the EU SME Centre is a project funded by the European Union since 2010. So we've been around for 12 years already. Our mission is to help European small and medium companies and business organizations to get ready for China, to get to know China, to export to China, and to do business with or in China. We are implemented by a consortium of chambers of commerce and business organizations, which you can see on the bottom of the slide, and the consortium is led by the Italian chamber in China. We partner up with many organizations, government, business, and we also have a physical office in Beijing, which is where I am now. Very briefly, we provide 4 main types of services. The first one is the knowledge center. We write reports, guidelines, case studies on different sectors about of the Chinese market. We have recently done one on cosmetics, which you can, this is a screenshot from our website, and these are all free, you can access as long as you register on our website. We also have an advice center, which is a sort of help desk that companies, business organizations, embassies can use to ask us any questions, also technical questions on different regulatory or market aspects. For instance, what standards do I have to follow? What are the labeling requirements for my products and so on? And I would like to, this is also a screenshot from a website. Within this advice center, we have different tools. We have FAQs, but we also have a very interesting self-diagnosis tool, which I would like to show you very, very briefly. It's basically sort of quiz that people can do on different, focusing on different aspects of products or business environment. And basically it's a sort of, it's multiple questions. And based on the question, on the answers that you select, you get a score at the end with an assessment of which answers were correct, which answers were not very correct, and then you will be provided a tailored list of additional readings and webinar recordings and so on. It's pretty short, very fun as well, and I invite you to do it. Another service that we have is a training center, basically what we're doing today. Of course, we try to do as much as possible offline, but in these recent weeks, the situation is not very optimal. So we also do online things. And last, this is, by the way, all the trainings we have, we usually upload the recording on our YouTube channel. This is a screenshot from our YouTube channel, and you can rewatch all these recordings. And we also have an advocacy platform, which is basically a sort of working group that we have through which we try to promote, disseminate information about new regulations, calls for comments, and things like this. Now I will also give the floor to Vincenzo Rafa from the China-Italy Chamber of Commerce for a few words.
Thank you, Alessio. Thank you, Alessio, and to the EU SME Centre. This is Vincenzo Rafa from the China-Italy Chamber of Commerce in Guangzhou. I would like to brief you on who we are. The CSEC is the only business organization recognized by both the Italian government, the Ministry of Economic Development, MISE, and the People's Republic of China, Ministry of Civil Affairs, MOCA. The aim of the CSEC is to boost the internationalization of Italian business and to promote the Made in Italy in the PRC. The CSEC was established in 1991, currently has 7 offices nationwide, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou being the most important cities. In each territory, we are a central partner of the so-called Italian system, following the embassy and local consulates, as well as other partners. Our chamber ranks 11th among all Italian chambers worldwide for number of members. That were more than 800 last year, end of last year, 2021, representing the Italian business community, such as public investment and multinational corporations, small and medium enterprises, and service companies. Our chamber is based on an industry-specific working group, so with the industry peer focusing on shared topics and looking for common solutions. You can see here all the 12 working groups are currently activated in the chamber. The CICC offers a variety of services to SMEs and corporations, such as business context, business and market analysis, media and communication consultancy for the local market, and consultancy service overall for companies that are interested in the Chinese market. Please visit us to know more at www.cameraticina.com and follow us on WeChat, LinkedIn, and other social media. Thank you all and wish you a good informative seminar.
Thank you, Vincenzo, as always, for your very fast introduction. So now I would I will move into the core part of this webinar. It's my pleasure. It's a great pleasure to welcome Ms. Sabrina Wang, who is a chemical regulatory analyst consultant at Reach 24H Consulting Group, she's based in Hangzhou. And Ms. Sabrina is responsible for global chemical regulation tracking and hazardous management consulting, as well as dangerous goods and other environmental health safety regulation management. She has worked with many clients in the past, big companies, small companies, and has a very solid understanding of all the registration procedures that that companies that want to export to China have to go through. And so on. So without further ado, Sabrina, I would give the floor to you now. Thank you again for being with us today, and we really look forward to your presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen now, so you can share yours.
Okay, thank you, Alessio. Thank you so much for your invitation and the introduction. I'm Sabrina from Reach 24H Consulting Group. Today, it's my honor to share the webinar to discuss the China chemical management together. And let me share my screen. Okay, hope everyone could see the slides clear now. Okay.
Sorry, Sabrina, we actually can't.
Can't see the. Okay, let me try again.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can. Great.
Okay, let's start. As we know, in recent years, China implements an increasingly strict supervision system for chemical management. So it is very important for EU companies to know which registration they need to deal with and which points they need to pay attention for exporting their product to China. So today I'm going to share with you for how to export chemical substance to China. At first, let me make a brief introduction about our company, Reach 24H. We are a technological consulting service company, and our headquarters in Hangzhou, China, and the branches in Ireland, UK, USA, Korea, and Taiwan region. By creating 24-hour global consulting service network and a technical expert team, we provide one-stop international market access service. And our service covered a broad range of industries, including the industrial chemicals, agrochemicals, cosmetics, food and food contact materials, and consumer products. And our service content, including the product introduction, registration and consulting, regulatory date and news alerts, conference, workshop, and webinars, software and regulatory database service. Okay, after an introduction, let's start today's topic. The topic will be divided into 3 parts. The first part, we will see the whole overview of the chemical regulations. And then the second part, we will see we will know the regulation interpretation and the supervision in details. And the last part, we will have the summary and suggestions. Okay, let's start the part 1, overview of chemical regulation. Firstly, let's see the responsible authority. Here we have listed main links during the chemical trading process, like export and import, transport in different area, warehousing, use and sales, and discard. So in different links, there are different regulatory authorities. For example, for the export and import are mainly regulated by custom. We often heard from our clients that their goods are suspected problems during the custom clearance. And in the transport link, it is supervised by the Ministry of the Transport. However, according to different modes of the transportation, such as railway, by air, by sea, and so on, it will be supervised by competent railway department and the competent civil aviation department. And in the warehousing, use, and sales link, it is mainly supervised by the emergency management department. And in the waste link, it is mainly supervised by the environmental protection department. Okay, then let's see the regulation system. The legal system in China is relatively complicated, so we can understand it through this pyramid. For example, the highest level is the state laws, like the law of the People's Republic of China on safety of hazardous chemicals. But until now, it's a draft version. This law will be the highest level law to regulate the legal responsibility of chemical management. And then it's the administrative regulation, like the regulation on the control over safety of hazardous chemicals. We also called it as Decree number 591. This is the most important basic regulation in our hazardous chemical management. This regulation is superior of many following regulations. And then it's the department rules, like some measures for different types of registration, like the Order 50 for the measures for the administration of hazard chemical registration, and like the number 60, the measures for the administration of physical hazard identification and classification. And then the last level is the technical standard, like the GB 30,000. It showed how to classify the GHS classification for substance and mixtures. And like the GB 16483, it showed how to create a compliance SDS. So we can see that there are a lot of regulatory requirements at different levels.
Hi, Sabrina. Sorry for the interruption. I think we can hear a lot of background noise. I think with the microphone, I think there is something touching it. So there is a lot of noise. I don't know if maybe you can try to see what the issue is about. Thanks.
Okay. Here also have the background noise.
It seems to be slightly better.
Okay, now let's continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then let's take a look at this chart. It contains a lot of content, and we can simply understand it. According to some of links we may involve, here are some laws and regulations that you are more concerned about. As we mentioned before, in the hazardous chemical management system, the most important regulation is the Decree number 591. And we mainly comply with 3 aspects: the business license, China GHS, and the registration license filing, and how to understand it. For example, we have links on the production, operation, and use. We need to apply for the corresponding license before we can carry out activities. Then in the process of the activities, it is important to pass the risk of the product to the downstream. Then we need to reflect the correct hazard information of the product on the SDS and the GHS label, according to the China's GHS classification system, and pass it on. And then for some chemical required by the special inventory, such as a new chemical substance in China, or a hazardous chemical, or especially for the highly toxic chemical, they need to be registered before they can pass the review and conduct activities. So this is the whole background combined with the laws and the regulations and links of the chemical circulation. Okay, in the first part, we introduce the background of the China's basic legal system. Then in the second part, we will introduce in detail how we should deal with the key regulation. We will mainly explain from 3 aspects. The first is the supervision target, and then mainly inventory and the supervision measure. First of all, we need to know the supervision targets of the China Chemical Administration, which include new chemical substance, hazard chemical, dangerous goods, and other controlled chemical. For EU customer today, we will focus on the first 2 items, the new chemical substance and the hazard chemical management. We can see this pie chart of different colors can facilitate us to understand different types of chemicals. First, the outermost circle in the light blue is a range of all our chemicals, including the mixtures, and the dark blue piece is a new chemical, and the yellow part belongs to the existing chemical substance. And at the same time, there are a large number of the substances that are classified as by the GHS system, but not all substances classified by GHS are hazardous chemical. And under the hazardous chemical, there are some special inventories, such as the toxic chemicals, the precursory chemicals, and the explosive chemicals. They are relatively dangerous, and a few of them that require special control. And then for these different types of chemicals, we have listed 2 tables to facilitate everyone to understand the management inventory, the method, and the basic regulations. For example, for the new chemical substance, that is the substance not listed in the existing chemical substance inventory, and the management registration and the risk assessment is required. And the basic regulation is the Decree 591 and the special measures for this inventory management of the new chemical substance. And then, for example, for the hazard chemicals, which is referred to the substance listed in the inventory of hazard chemical and with the GHS hazard classification, which requires the related registration and some license application. And the regulation basic is Decree 591 and some special measures for physical hazard identification, classification, and the registration. There are some more in the back, and we will not list them one by one. We can share the slides, and if you know what kind of your product, and you can compare with it, and compare in this label, and to find the related inventory, the method, and the registration basic. So here we focus on two mainly regulations. The first one is the regulation of the new chemical substance. In China, we have an inventory of existing chemical substance, about 45,000 or more. And this list is constantly being updated. The Ministry of Ecology and Environment will announce some newly added substance from time to time. And most of this inventory is publicly accessible. So when we import products, we can first look up the substance information in this inventory. If it's included, then there is no need to conduct the environment registration. And if it's not included, a small part of the inventory is a confidential list, and the enterprise cannot inquire through public channel, but can only submit the substance information to the authority for the searching, and it will be use some administration cost for the novelty searching. And if the result of the novelty searching is still not listed, and then the substance need to be registered for the environmental management and as a new substance.
Sabrina, sorry again for the interruption, but I think the issue with the microphone was not really solved. It's really noisy, and sometimes we can barely hear you speaking. So I don't know if you have it maybe on your jacket. Maybe it's I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption.
It's fine. I will try.
Now it seems okay, I have to say, but yeah, maybe you can try with this.
When I'm speaking, it has some background.
It's like if you're hitting. It's like if you're hitting your microphone with something, like with a paper or with the, or with some.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, now we heard it again.
Okay, it's clear now.
Now it is.
Okay. Okay, I will continue.
Yes, please. And we can hear again now.
Okay. Let's continue for the confidential list in the existing substance inventory. So
it's very bad. Sorry, Sabrina, we can hear it a lot. So yeah. Where is your microphone? I mean, maybe.
Microphone is near.
Maybe try to change the position of the microphone, or I don't know.
Microphone is here, and it's good now?
Seems yes.
Okay, let's continue again and try it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's continue. For the confidential list in the existing substance inventory. Okay, for enterprises, we cannot to take the substance in the we cannot check the substance information in the confidential list. So we just could submit the materials to authority to have a novelty searching. And it will be a part of administration cost for the novelty searching. If the result of the novelty searching is still not listed, then the substance need to be registered for the inventory management as a new substance. And this registration is generally carried out by domestic manufacturers and importers as a member body. If an overseas enterprises wants to be the member body of the registration, they need to entrust a domestic agent as the OR, like the EU REACH, the role of the OR in the EU REACH. And our company, REACH 24H, could act as the agent as to assist overseas enterprises to register. And the registration of the new chemical substance is divided into 3 different types according to the grade of the tonnage import each year. The simplest registration is to import substance with an annual import volume of less than 1 ton, and the polymer that comply with the PLC. These only need to apply for the record notification. No test is required, and the timeline about 1 to 2 weeks. And a receipt will be obtained after submission, but the certificate will not issued. It's the easy notification. But if the annual import volume is 1 to 10 tons, the simplified registration is required. And if the volume import and the import volume is more than 10 tons each year, the regular registration is required. And both types need to carry out corresponding tests after the data gap analysis, and which will take a very long time and a more expensive cost. It may be usually takes half a year or to 1 year or even longer. And both types of certificate will be issued after the registration is completed. Let's take a look at the overall registration process. First of all, when we get a product, we need to check whether each component is listed in the IECSC to confirm whether it is a new substance. And if it's a new substance, we can see if there have some exceptions. If not, then we need to access which registration type based on the annual import volume and prepare the corresponding materials and test based on the different registration types. And then we need to submit the document through the online system and wait for the authority to review. If there is any questions about the submitted materials, the authority will reject it. And we need to revise and resubmit it again, and until it passes the review and obtains a certificate in the end. So we can see, although the whole process does not sound complicated, there will be many small problems in the actual operation process. So it is recommended that enterprises should set aside enough time to prepare this registration. Okay, after knowing the new substance inventory, let's take a look at the next import inventory of hazardous chemical. In the past time, the two concepts of hazardous chemical and the dangerous goods were not separate. In 2002, the revised inventory of hazardous chemical was combined with the inventory of the highly toxic chemical to form the 2015 version of the inventory we are using now. This inventory with a total of 2,828 items, and of which 1 to 2,827 items are substance, and the last one is the collection items. So how to judge whether a product is a hazardous chemical in China? As we all know, there are too many hazardous chemicals, and only 2,828 items is not enough. So outside the inventory, we also have a determination principle to help us to confirm whether it is a hazardous chemicals. So what is the determination principle? Similar to the EU classification system. However, China has a 95 GHS classification of substance and mixture, of which 81 with a gray background belongs to the determination principle. If a product has any one of the gray GHS classification, it belongs to the scope of the determination principle of hazardous chemicals. For example, the flammable liquid, the class 1, 2, 3 belongs to the hazardous chemicals, but the class 4 doesn't belong to the hazard chemicals. So from this chart, we can understand what is the determination principle and the criteria of hazardous chemicals. Therefore, our supervision of hazard chemicals can be classified into different levels according to the different levels of the risk. The first level with the highest risk can, of course, be found in the inventory of hazardous chemicals, such as substance 1 to 2,827 atoms, and the last collection atoms. And the second level is equivalent to being included in the inventory, as we just mentioned, in line with the determination principle of 81 GHS classification. And for the mixture, if more than 70% of the ingredients are listed in the inventory, it is also equivalent to the inventory management. And the third level belongs to the general hazardous chemicals. Although the determination principle is met, the components listed in the inventory are less than 70%. The first and the second level is in inventory management, and the third level is out the inventory management. And after distinguishing the classification of these three levels, and then we will look at the corresponding countermeasures later. Okay, we can see this table. Let's understand the difference between in-inventory management and out-inventory management. We can take a look at the on the left, the classification and identification, SDS and GHS label, hazardous chemical registration, product and operation permit, import-export supervision, and hazard chemical warehousing. We can see that as long as it's in inventory management, the aspect we mentioned above all need to be dealt with. And the supervision is very strict. We often get the feedback from our clients that their product is detained by customs because their GHS label is not up to the standards, or the business license does not contain their product scope, or their warehouse is not correct, and so on. So therefore, if our company products are listed in inventory management, it is especially important to pay attention on these links. And for the product outside the inventory, although the requirements are not so strict, they cannot be relaxed. Such products are not required to apply for some license and permit, but SDS and registration, SDS and GHS label and the hazard chemical registration also is required. And the custom will conduct random inspections. So this form is more important, and I hope we can check which range our product belongs to and whether each link has been properly dealt with. Okay, to sum up, for hazard chemicals, how should our company respond step by step? First of all, classification, identification, and the risk assignment need to be carried out to determine the correct hazard of this product. And according to the requirements of the national standards, the compliance SDS and GHS label are compliant to pass the hazard information to the downstream. And according to the different product inventory, the corresponding registration, filing, license application, and other work are carried out. If after the judgment, it is found that the product is prohibited or restricted, it is necessary to adjust the components of the product or seek the alternative. And in summary, the management of the chemicals in China involves various aspects, and the requirements are relatively complicated. And we need to know more about the current domestic supervision consistency. And at the same time, our consulting service can also provide to the full supply chain consulting for enterprises chemical access, and provide technical support service to help the company to avoid the risk and comprehensively respond to the supervision. Okay, that's all the content about part 2, and in which we elaborate to how to respond to the regulations. And then in the part 3, we will come with a summary. Here we still use a picture to respect the various links in the flow of chemicals. In the import and export process, we need to pay attention to understand whether the product we import need to be declared for the new chemical substance, whether they need to be registered for hazardous chemicals, and whether they are product under the special control. If the product in China and used in China, in addition to above mentioned, we should also pay attention to applying at the corresponding license. And in the subsequent business and sales link, we also need to apply for the corresponding certificate. And when storage, we need to select the correct warehouse according to the hazard of the product. And in the transport link, we need to arrange the vehicle, packaging, materials, and so on. And in the last waste links, we need to identify the waste to determine whether the VOC exceeds the standards. The above is what we are talking about today, and the key points we need to deal with when EU company export chemicals to China, or when company in China product and trade. Okay, in a word, since there are many laws and regulations in China, there may be some difference in local management, and our suppliers or factories are widely distributed. So based on our understanding of company situation, we have the following suggestions. The first one, we could establish a database for chemical laws and regulations and carried out systematic management of our own chemicals. And the second, we could fully understand the requirements of the regulatory management, such as the scope of the substance, the scope of the activities, and the management points, and so on. And the third, we could have the good communication with local management departments. For example, we could communicate with the emergency department, or we could communicate with other peers or consulting companies to get experience and support. And at last, for all the legal and the regulatory consultation we mentioned today, and the various registration, application for license, and prepare the SDS and label, Reach 24H can provide a technical consulting service for you. If you have any questions, and please feel free to contact with us. Okay, this is all content in our today's webinar. So thank you for the listening. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you very much. And I have to say that at the end, there were no issues with the microphone. So great. We have a few questions. And of course, I invite all the participants to ask any questions they might have in the Q&A box. We have around 15 minutes for answering specific questions, so please do so. So I'm reading the question. The first question is, your explanation of the process for new chemical substance registration was clear. But what if I have a chemical substance that is already in the inventory of existing chemical substances? What is, in this case, the export process?
Okay, if the substance listed in the inventory, if the substance listed in the inventory, we don't need to apply for the, let me show. We don't apply for the new substance registration, just don't need for this kind of registration, but we need to analyze this substance for other aspects. For example, whether it's a hazardous chemical or whether it's a special controlled chemical and so on. If yes, we should apply for another registration, not this one.
And what if it's no? No registration obligation. So what do you have to do basically? Do you have to obtain some permits, or in any case, or you know?
Yes, it will have some if the check, if don't apply for this registration, will have some penalty, like first level will, the authority will tell the company, you should do this. And if you still don't apply for this registration, maybe have some penalty for money, and or stop the activity, and so on.
Okay, so okay, thank you. Maybe please remain on this slide because there is another question related to this. Yeah, which is the next question. You mentioned that there could be exemptions for new chemical substance regulation. There is one block here. So what are these exemptions? What could be these exemptions? If you can make some examples.
Some substances are controlled by other industries, like cosmetic. If it's a cosmetic, it is under another inventory or regulation controlled. So like the other industries or the in nature substance in the like the water or some nature substance in the yes, I think this one is exemption, and we need to make an analysis for the substance.
Okay, very clear. Another question, I think it's the next slide, or but you mentioned that for the new chemical substance, for the existing chemical substance inventory, there is one part which is a confidential list.
Yes.
So I think this is an interesting question. Why there is such a confidential list? What is the purpose? Why is not everything public?
Okay, I think it maybe the authority will have some idea for company information, or the like the substance information that some applied company don't want to let other company to know this information. So I think this is why we have the confidential list. But it's not too much. I think the confidential list maybe just 4,000 or to 5,000. It's not too much.
Okay. Right, but you mentioned you can submit a request if you want to know which if your substance is in this list, right? If so, how much does it cost? What are the fees for this, and how long does it take to get a response? Because this is all, sometimes when you deal with the administration, this is also a very important question to know how long does it take to get a response.
Okay, the first question, the cost. The cost, it will have the administrative cost. It's 3,000 yuan, and our service will have the 600 service fee. So this is the cost. The fixed cost is administrative cost. And how long? In general, we will take 2 or 3 weeks, but the timeline is depends on the authority checking. And recently, maybe 1 month because of the COVID-19 situation. And yes, I think recently maybe longer, but normally 2 or 3 weeks is enough.
Okay, very good. So there is another question, but before we ask it, I would remind everybody again to submit questions in the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom. The other question is, what is the content in a compliant SDS under Chinese version?
Okay, the SDS actually is similar to the EU SDS, also have the 16 sections. And the first one is the chemical name and the supplier information and the emergency number. So this emergency number should be located in China. And the section 2 is the most important information, is the hazardous information, like the signal word, like the pictogram and GHS classification. Here we have a special points in China's SDS, that is emergency overview, that should be at the top of the section 2, which in EU SDS don't have this. And then the section 3 is the components information, and then it's a storage emergency information, and then has the transport information like this, and the regulation related and other information like this.
Okay, very good. By the way, I think if someone wants to know the links maybe to all these inventories, to all these regulations, to all these standards that we have mentioned, of course they are online, but you can also reach out to us and we will be happy to share these links. Maybe Vincenzo.
Yes,
Yes.
I also have one question from our side to the speaker, and so maybe is a question about the post. So we have listened to your explanation on the documents, on the all the procedures that the companies have to go through. But after this, after a company has registered, has gone through all the procedures, what are the associations, if there are any? Or what are the channels that a SMI or a company can use to check the supply side? So how to check what are the industrial players in this sector in China, if there are any?
Firstly, I think the authority will check, like the emergency management department. They will check the domestic factories or importers whether they have applied for this registration. And in another side, if we find suppliers, we of course want to find a good compliance supplier to provide service. And firstly, we could check their qualification, like whether they have applied for these registrations and the certificate. I think we could two aspects to think these questions. The first is the legal requirement. Authority will check you, and another one is the supplier. We could check the supplier qualification and then find the good supplier or factories.
But what sorry, maybe a follow up on this. What if it's not a supplier, but if I want to find a client, like a buyer, how can I I don't know, are there any channels or platforms that could help, maybe connections between European companies that want to export to China and Chinese buyers, as far as you know?
Okay, we need to clear about the roles of our company. What should, for example, we just as the overseas company and export the product to China, right? And
yes,
what we should do? Firstly, if it's the hazardous chemical, so the basic document is SDS and label. Actually, for the basic document, it has no requirement to say which side they should prepare it. The foreign company prepare it is fine, and the domestic importer prepare also is fine. So we can discuss who would like to prepare the more compliance one. And for the some registration, some of the registration could apply as the foreign company, like the new chemical registration. So the foreigner company could apply for this. But as the hazardous chemical registration, just as a local company could apply for this. So you could tell the importers, tell the downstream, tell the supplier, you should apply, you should comply with the regulations and apply for this registration.
okay, and okay, so maybe no, this is very clear. What if I am a European company and I have a subsidiary in China? Can this subsidiary in China do all these registrations? For instance, in cosmetics, you have this domestic responsible agent, which could be the subsidiary in China of your company. Is it the same for these chemical substances?
Yes, it seems the agent service is same. For the new chemical substance, we will have the like the agent role in or only representative. But as other local registrations, they don't have this agent role. So we need to case by case to discuss the registration.
Okay, very good. So I will give a couple of minutes more to participants to ask questions if they have. If not, I think we can just close this webinar. I don't know if Sabrina, you want to add something that maybe I don't know, or Vincenzo.
Oh, okay. I just want to ask: is the content is clear? Because sometimes it has a background voice. I just want to know if it's clear for you.
At the end was pretty clear. Maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes were not very clear, but still you could manage to understand the message, I think. In any case, again, we are going to upload this recording, the recording of this webinar on YouTube, so it can be rewatched. And if there are questions, if you know, it was not clear, participants can always reach out to us. We then connect to Sabrina or answer ourselves. Yeah, don't hesitate to contact us. Vincenzo, anything to add?
No, nothing from my side. So thank you all for today.
Okay, so maybe Sabrina, if you don't mind to stop sharing your screen, so I have one very final slide to share.
Okay.
Okay, so this is you know, we would appreciate if you could take a couple of minutes of your time to scan this code and fill some your feedback about this. Again, this is very important for us because you can propose ideas or topics for other webinars in the future. Actually, this webinar we did today, it was as response to a couple of emails that we received from European companies. So if you think, if you have any ideas for a webinar, just you know, you can submit them in this feedback survey or by email to us. That would be very important for us. So that will be all. And thank you, Sabrina, for the presentation. Thank you, Vincenzo, from the Italian Chamber for co-organizing this with us.
Thank you,
and these are contact details, WeChat. Please follow us, and look forward to see you next time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Have a good day. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.